Welcome to the series Designing Your Way Forward. Joining me in this third episode is Alex, while we explore how treating your career like a product through intentional signaling, portfolio building, smart problem selection, and long-term strategy can help you design a more impactful and fulfilling professional journey. Alex, welcome again. If you had to define a North Star metric for your own career, what would it be, and how has that guided your decision making?
I personally think that my North Star metric is to become an entrepreneur. Not entrepreneur by talking about, I want to create a lot of businesses, being successful, being rich, whatever. No, it is more about going through all of my career as the designer and focusing on compound interest in skills. Because a designer is not only about designing visual stuff, it is also about becoming a better product manager, becoming a better engineer, it is becoming a better researcher. A lot of skills that really drives your compound interest and for you to become a really successful person. And for me, it is equal to become an entrepreneur. And my personal additional North Star is to, again, create something on my own with the team I love, with the idea I love, with a lot of exciting challenges that, again, combine and balance and results.
And building on that, you've talked about treating your career as a product. How do you evaluate which opportunities are experiments versus which ones are considered more as a roadmap bets?
A good question. I personally think that roadmap bets is always about your long-term positioning, what you really want. A lot of people want to create their own startups. A lot of people want to grow in their career ladder in big corporations. A lot of paths. But in general, my perspective is that evaluating experiments is only about saying it is like a low-stakes ways to explore unknowns. What I mean by that is an experiment can be learning a new tool, having a new side project for you to become a better designer, finding a new, path to explore 3D design, animation, a lot of pieces, all of these small experiments that on this compound effect makes you a better designer. But roadmap bets are about what you really want, why you need to have a side project, why you want to learn animation, why you want to learn 3D design. All of that experiments needs to ladder to your roadmap bet. For example, I want to create my own startup. For that, I need to become a better manager, a better collaborator, maybe a design engineer too, to have a much faster way to collaborate with engineers in my future startup to deliver value much faster. So I personally think that, again, a career is more like a build, measure, learn loop where you always experiment with a lot of new stuff, but commit with intent for a clear roadmap that you're choosing.
And speaking of making those big bets, a lot of that comes down to how you present yourself to others. In your view, what signals matter most in a designer's portfolio today, especially for those who want to be trusted with a strategic, high-impact problem, for instance?
Yeah, portfolios is something that I always talk a lot with people whom I mentor because it is something that a lot of people are struggling with. My personal perspective is that the best pieces and the best signals that matter the most in design portfolio today is that they are some type of case studies that explains me, like the reviewer, how this person thinks. It is not about visual polished designs, like a lot of animations on website or awards that this website might achieve. No, I'm prioritizing, again, a clear idea. For example, a case study that showcases how this designer learns, how this designer thinks, how this designer solves problem with a clear articulation. It is more like a documentation, neither than like a painting or like a bunch of visual designs on one page. There needs to be 80% of text that explains me about how this person thinks, and 20% of beautifully polished prototypes or something simple that I can really easily digest. So I feel that, again, this pieces are good signals for me to understand that, yes, this portfolio is great and I can trust this person to, for example, join the company or the startup.
And as much as portfolios open doors, building genuine relationship is what actually helps you walk through them. Networking can feel transactional, but eventually it's also critical. How do you approach building long-term authentic relationships in design and product circles?
I think always when I want to build like a long-term relations or find new people, I always need to have a problem I need to solve. I always receive a question from other designers is like, I'm scary to come to someone on the conference, or I'm scary to meet new designers. I think the root problem of that is that people do not know why they need to come to them. They don't have a clear questions or problems that they are currently facing with, and that person can be perfect. That person can give you a perfect, for example, answer or suggestion or recommendation. And for me, again, networking is not transactional for me at all. It is more about making myself interesting for other people, and especially and how you can make myself interesting for other people is, again, having this problem that for that person is also really interesting to talk about, to discuss, to recommend, to have a really good communication about. So for that, for sure, it can be a social media where you experiment a lot around what you're doing in your own startup or company. You're asking a lot of questions, you're sharing. It can be also if, for example, you want to find a new job or find a lot of new people, is not being afraid to be yourself, to be different, is not directly going to that person and saying, okay, hello, I want to meet new people, they want to speak with me. No, it is more about involving in the conversations. For example, on Twitter, there is a lot of interesting conversations of designers. It is going to conferences, discussing different problems. It is showcasing your own work, showcasing your own struggles, and, for example, mentioning famous designers about how they think their struggles and problems can be solved. I understand, all of that pieces is a really good motivation for you, especially when the famous designer answers. And I know that they love to answer really interesting problems and a really interesting question. So I personally think that networking is not transactional. It is more about how you ask questions and how you present.
Well, that's a great perspective on building meaningful connections in the industry. And as your network and experience have grown, looking back, is there a career decision you would design differently today? Not because it was wrong, but rather because your product mindset has evolved?
I personally, throughout my career, I struggled a lot with anxiety when I wanted to showcase people that here is the perfect work I'm doing. And that caused me a lot of overthinking what other people think about my work. And I personally do not believe in perfection and always doing something in perfect way, because perfect does not exist. The only thing that this approach makes is increasing your anxiety. Because again, craft and your success is not about your perfection, it's about repeated reps in high feedback environments. When you do something, you communicate. You do something, you communicate. Only this way you can build the better quality and overall the great result in the end. But when you try to do something perfect, the only thing you want to achieve is to receive appreciation from your team instead of achieving better results for what you're doing. So my personal perspective is that two pieces, overthinking about what other people think about my work and trying to do everything perfect, is something that right now I will do differently.
And looking ahead, as AI and automation continue to reshape the design industry, how should designers think about future-proofing their career product roadmap? And what capabilities or positioning do you think will become increasingly valuable over the upcoming years?
I personally think that there will be two categories of designers in AI era. It will be design engineers and design influencers. So design engineers is clear, is that because we have so many new AI tools, it will be much easier for you to, instead of thinking about all of the details in Figma. Instead of that, go directly to code and, for example, collaborate with our engineer and focus on visual stuff, iterating on new experiments, a lot of other things. So this is one path for sure, is that all designers need to learn basics of coding, new AI tools, how they evolve, always be on top of new products, iterating with them. And another piece is design influencers. Influencer, I'm not meaning TikTok or Instagram influencers. No, it is more about when you, as the designer, you influence your team. You create ideas, you focus on the future of your products. You are the influencer. You're like a product manager. You're like a leader of your team. So instead of only, for example, waiting for your PM to give you a task and you go to Figma to, for example, iterate on this task, you are the owner of the idea. You come to your team and saying, look, here is the directions we can do, here is the things we can do, etc. So I personally think that in AI era, only these two categories of designers will exist and will succeed.
Thank you, Alex, for this rich and amazing exchange. It was a pleasure. Thanks to our listeners for joining us. We hope these conversations inspire you to approach your own career with intention, creativity, and a mindset of a designer.
Thank you, guys.